Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the Black Feather Ospreys Rugby Fancast.
Hi
Now,
all.
hi Rod. Now, you may have noticed something a little bit different this evening in that we've gone from being the three amigos to the dangerous duo. Should we call ourselves dangerous duo?
I'll
The
take that.
deadly
That's
duo?
catchy enough.
We'll take that, yeah.
There's no dancing connotations there. Maybe it makes us sound like gunslingers rather than, I don't know, like we're going to do a little jive in a fancy hat.
We could do that. Have you not seen Colin and Percy the pig on TikTok doing the partner dance?
I
I'll be
haven't, no.
You can be Colin the caterpillar, I'll be Percy the pig.
Okay.
Um, but unfortunately, Marc has got COVID, so isn't with us this evening. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so it is
All those
just
all those snotty kids, they
could have,
teachers.
yeah, would have got away with it if it wasn't for those pesky kids. Um, I was just going to mention about like licking toilet bowls and staying away from them, but you went for the like family friendly option of kids. Um, but it is just the two of us tonight, and we weren't able to strong arm a Bulls supporter to come and speak to us. So yeah, it's just the two of us. So we'll have a nice little intimate chat between us. I have to say, I have done a little URC roundup. It is nowhere near as detailed as Mark's. So we'll kind of go into the URC roundup because there were some really interesting results on the weekend with regards to the fixtures that were played. Um, I'm feeling a bit upset, so we'll probably leave the Ospreys result to last, if that's okay with you. We'll go with the others. So bit of an interesting week, really,
Mm.
um, with with round three of the old URC. In that, the main thing that I took away from it was all the South African teams won and all the Welsh teams lost. So make of that what you will. A couple of the most interesting games for the week for me were Lions in Edinburgh. Um, I watched that and I couldn't get my head around what went on there, really. Um, the result kind of flatters Edinburgh a little bit, really. It was Lions 55 and Edinburgh 22. Um, the Edinburgh defence was non-existent. It just wasn't there. So I think their defence coach is going to have a lot to discuss with them. Um, and it's 3 losses for Edinburgh out of three. Now I know they've played three big hitters so far in the first 3 rounds, but considering they've got 11 Scottish internationals, bit of a bit of a shock for them. Um, I know the Lions are a great team, but again, likewise, they always tend to lose their players to the Sharks. So 48-0 at half time. It was done and dusted within 40 minutes for them. So there's not a lot you can say about that, really,
Yeah.
other than wow, Edinburgh, what's going on? Your defence coach is not going to be happy with you. I don't know what your thoughts are on that loss, Rod, because I do think that final score does flatter them a little bit, considering where they were at half time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hell of a recovery, I guess. But no, I thought maybe Edinburgh would be a bit stronger this year after performance last season. Thought maybe they'd kick themselves up the arse and yeah, pull out some more decent performances this year. And the scary thing is for them is they always drop then later in the season when they lose their
Yeah,
international players. So yeah, yeah, they could be tickling the bottom of the table this year with
yeah,
some of the other teams that are typically down there performing better, like the Dragons, and
yeah,
I love to say it, Scarlets looking sometimes a bit better than they were last year.
yeah.
It could be an uncomfortable one for Edinburgh.
It could indeed. And
Mm.
then kind of going on to Leinster and Benetton. With regards to that match, again, great result for them, 35-5. Again, another match where it was pretty much done and dusted in the first half, really. 13th outing ever for Kieran Throwley. I can't read my writing. Um, and his try was absolutely superb with regards to the setup and the play that they had. Really did enjoy the highlights that I saw of that game. Leinster obviously sitting nice and pretty at the top of the table, I believe 4 points above anybody else. And for me, I just see them going strength to strength throughout the tournament. They usually, finish off quite strong. Um, but again, I think not a particularly high scoring game for Leinster, but an entertaining game nonetheless. And then kind of sticking with the Irish teams, we had Bulls and Ulster. And again, with that, Bulls 47, Ulster 21. Um, Bulls just played a really good game of basics. Everything seemed to go right with them with their basic rugby play. Um, I know that Ulster have come out and said they've been affected a lot by the Irish development tour, which we discussed on last week's pod and the week before. But it'll be interesting to see how they play against Connacht next weekend with two big Irish derbies
Mm.
taking place. Stormers, what can we say about Stormers? Again, great game for them, 36-5 against Zebra. Zebra were really, really poor. They were kind of holding up the competition, and I think, Stormers could have run a lot more in against them than they did.
Mm.
The one thing I want to say about Stormers is I absolutely love the South African meltdown over the past week, and all the various excuses they came up with. It's the Elvis ones that particularly got me. We got put off by the fact that there were people dressed as Elvis in the crowd.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. I
It's,
mean, it would be distracting for about 2 minutes, but then you'd sort of get over it, you'd hope,
yeah,
and zone in on the game. So, no, he was just saying words then, wasn't he?
yeah, it was just so funny. Um, and there's a lot of, you know, banter that's gone on Facebook in the URC thing
Mm.
as well. And I do find that just incredibly hilarious. We didn't like the weather. Oh, okay, is this Northern Hemisphere going into winter? What, I don't know what you were expecting. Um,
I didn't notice them on the TV. Were there a
I
lot of
didn't
them
see
around? You were there
anybody
in the
dressed
stadium.
as Elvis. I did not see anybody. And I would have loved that. Um, but I did not see anybody dressed as Elvis in the entire ground.
They all
So
stopped off in Porthcawl for some fish and chips before the game, that's
exactly,
why.
yeah. And I was just like, what's going on? I genuinely did not see anyone dressed as Elvis. But there were two games that I really enjoyed over the weekend, and they're the two games that kind of um, clashed with each other really. And I kind of had one eye on the laptop and I had one eye on the telly. Obviously, husband is a Glasgow fan, so Glasgow Cardiff on the telly, but I also had my eye on Dragons Sharks.
Mm.
Um, wow, the Cardiff game was amazing.
Mhm.
Um, we're talking 6 tries for Cardiff, 8 tries for Glasgow. Sione Tupiloto had
Mm.
an amazing game. Him
Yeah,
in the last 10 minutes of the first half, it was like he was just playing for fun.
yeah,
Absolutely thoroughly deserved his man of the match. Did not see a way for Cardiff to come back. They obviously went in, had some words half time, and
mm.
they came out and just it really looked like it was gonna be tighter than it was.
Yeah.
Realistically, defense coaches are going to be unhappy. Yeah, you've
On
scored your
both
tries,
sides.
but defense coach is going to be unhappy for both sides, really, isn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah. Defense was optional in that 100%. I know it's a
Yeah.
trope, but it was truer than ever in that game, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Whilst there was moments of brilliance from the backs, then defensively speaking, yeah, you're scoring tries, but as soon as you've scored a try, you're letting the opposition in to,
Yeah.
to score back and to come back at you. Um, thoroughly entertaining to watch as a neutral.
Mm.
But again, I think defence needs to improve for both sides. But then
Yeah.
on the
They
other side,
targeted they targeted Sheedy in that game, didn't they?
oh,
And I,
absolutely, they shut him down totally.
yeah, yeah, it wasn't a good game for him. And I don't blame him for that. It's just they had so many sort of they had so many elements of the game that they needed to defend against that if they
Yeah,
shifted to focus on one, they were going to expose another. And Sheedy just drew the short straw, and they seemed to just leave
yeah,
him exposed all the time. All he needed was one of his back row pals
yeah,
next to him, just giving him that support. But that might have left gaps then around
elsewhere.
the edge of the ruck or through little creases elsewhere on the pitch. So it was a bit give and take in that game, but they
Yeah,
didn't seem to adapt after that sort of weakness was
no,
exposed with Sheedy. They could have, management level now taken decisions to make
keep an
things
eye on
easier
him.
for him, and they
Yeah,
they didn't. They just let him sort of falter out there. When Tina Stabia came on, he did look stronger in that
yeah,
role, and whether that's just because he's fresh legs playing against some more tired legs on the opposition, or whether he just was the right choice for that game over Sheedy, who knows? But they're clearly favouring Sheedy going forward, aren't they? They see him as the
yeah,
future, which
yeah,
is what we discussed in previous pods. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, fun, really entertaining game to watch. Uh,
Thoroughly enjoyed
Absent at points, but some fantastic tries. Although, yes, you mentioned Sione Tuipulotu. He
Tupoloto.
did look phenomenal, but that was because he was allowed to get through without, with three
Playing fun.
missed first up tackles against him. He had an easy day.
He did. He did. And lots of talk touting. People are starting to talk Lions already. And to be honest with you, a little bit early for me to pin
Mm,
anything on. We'll know more after kind of the autumn internationals and as this season progresses and more towards Six Nations. But he looked good.
I
And
think
then
he
I
did.
also had my other eye on the Dragons and Sharks. And if I'm being honest, totally gutted for the Dragons in a way because that was the game for them that got away. A bit like the
Mm,
first game where we had against them, that was the game for them that got away. And for me, game management, I wasn't expecting them to be in this position after last year. So it is nice to see that they are competing. Um, you know, and again, it was that last gasp moment. Some stuff online that I've seen about TMO and everything else, and potentially, going against them in their favour. But that's the way the sport is. Unfortunately, it is. That's the way that it's played.
mm.
But
Have they beaten Dragons before? Sharks, sorry. Have the
have
Dragons
we?
beaten the Sharks before? No,
No, I
the
don't think they
Dragons.
have. No.
Yeah, I didn't think they had. That would have been a nice monkey to get off their back. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was rooting for them, and that was a hard way to end things. Yeah, I
gutting for
really
them.
felt for them.
Absolutely gutting for them.
Mm.
Um, and then that kind of brings us to us,
What about
really.
Scarlett?
Scarlett, yes. I forgot all about my little Scarlets. Oh God, they'll think I've got it
Another
in.
last minute loss.
They think I've got it in for them if I keep forgetting them. Yeah, another kind of last minute loss for them. Um, Again, I don't know whether the talk of Costello possibly going to or being looked
Mm,
at for Leicester is something that's going on there. But last gasp 23-24 win against Connacht, loss against Connacht.
mm.
And I didn't really watch that game, if I'm being honest. But oh, I should say I feel sorry for him. Should I say I
Mm.
feel sorry for him? But I don't really.
You can
Um,
say it, so I can't.
um, but yeah, I kind of feel gutted for them in that respect. But I think there's a lot going on off pitch with them. With Twitter's a bit of a cesspool, really, sometimes, isn't it? Because you've got some
Mm,
people saying no, we can't let him go, and then we've got other people going ship him off. I'll pay for his train fare and everything
mm.
else. It can't be easy to see that online and stuff. Um, and they've just lost a player to one of the American teams as well, haven't they, today?
Oh
I
yeah.
briefly seen. But
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
last gasp
Yeah.
thing again.
All the
It is
podcasts and pundits and stuff are saying it, but Costello is definitely having a crisis of confidence, isn't he?
yeah,
And I don't know what needs to happen there to restore that for him. He probably needs a more mature fly half in his presence, giving him that advice and easing off the pressure and stepping in the last 20 minutes of games when things
yeah,
are unraveling a bit, just to shore things up. But he doesn't have that. I do pity the bloke in a Welsh jersey and in a Scarlets jersey. You know, he's got so much pressure
gets
on
a
his
lot of flack.
shoulders, and he gets so much flack. And you were saying Twitter and some of the social media, Facebook groups and stuff are a cesspit, but I think the Scarlets one is some of the worst. Um,
Awful.
they're relentless sometimes. Like you got to be critical because it's a high performance game and these are high performance athletes competing at the top level, and there is a standard, but equally some people don't respond to that kind of
Gotta
feedback
learn,
or pressure. They need a bit more pushing up rather than dragging
putting down.
forward. So yeah, I do pity the bloke, but
And he's young. He's
yeah.
young. He's really young. And he's
Mm,
been thrust into the spotlight at a really young age. And I know other players have been thrust into that spotlight, but not
mm,
necessarily in a position where they're controlling a game and they're managing a game.
mm,
You're making the decisions. You're the general. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? One of the generals on field.
yeah.
And
But
that's
it's not all
gotta
on him.
be it's a lot.
Mm,
And I think there's a lot that can be said for sports psychology and understanding the pressures of that intense high performance
mm,
capability and being able to do that.
yeah.
But as I
But if
say, so
yeah.
social media is a cesspit.
Yeah. If we are
Um,
talking lion centres, though, they did a good job of keeping Bundyaki quite quiet in that game.
yeah,
Neither team was firing on all cylinders, but yeah, Bundyaki didn't get any inroads really, which is a credit to the Scarlets.
yeah.
Mm.
There are good things that they can take away from that.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've been there when they've been on a losing end of anything, and the crowd is not great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I
so
think they picked up a few more injuries on the weekend as well, and they're stacking up in all three other regions now, I think, aren't they? I think we're
yeah,
the only one. It's the flip of last season where we were just riddled with injuries throughout. They've clearly been given the time to rest, and we're in a better place this season, whereas they're all
yeah.
suffering. I think some of them are in the mid to high teens in terms of their number of injuries, whereas,
Oh,
yeah, we're not that bad yet. But
it'd be interesting to see a full list of what's happening to who.
mm,
Um, and I think that's potentially getting onto Munster and Ospreys. I potentially think that's an issue for Munster. They had a couple of profile people going off.
yeah,
So worrying for them on Saturday in terms of injury. But let's
mm,
talk about the elephant in the room. We were nilled on
yeah,
Saturday. Um, Obviously end of game 23-0. Um, I don't even know where to start with that. Um,
mm,
the weather was awful, but then the weather was awful for both teams. I
mm,
don't think the refereeing was perhaps the highest that it could have been, but then if you know those are the decisions that are being made against you, you've got to learn to play the ref as well if you know that that's
yeah,
happening.
mm,
Um, I don't know if there's anything positive that I can take from Saturday other than it happened. We're only 3 games in. We pick ourselves up, we brush ourselves off, we move forward to the weekend against the Bulls. Um,
yeah,
Tadburn was superb, and
yeah,
obviously
incredible.
that
Such a
fastest try
menace.
in the
Just caused
URC.
us so many problems, didn't he? He was
Yeah,
just everywhere over every ruck. You gave him, you know, zero point 0.5 milliseconds with the ball unprotected on the
and he's
ground, and he
there.
was on it. And we couldn't get him off when he was down, when he was head down, ass up. So
quite a high
tough.
number of turnovers for us as well, which was, again, defensively, speaking to a source, shall we say, John, speaking to my husband, speaking to Rich Kelly, and he was saying that defensively they were not happy with that performance, and especially after the first half, they went in and had a bit of a rollicking from
Mm,
from Toby. The one thing that I have picked up online is a lot of people are going, oh, they're feeling the pressure because of Toby leaving, blah blah blah. Let's leave that where it is. We don't need to worry. We don't need to go back to that again. We don't need to worry about
no,
that
no.
again. It was difficult conditions against a quality side, and we didn't do ourselves any favors. Um, but you know what? They didn't stop competing, so I think that for me is perhaps a positive. They could have let their heads go down.
Mm,
Defensively, I think again some high points there. We
mm.
could have we could have had a few more tries bounced in against us, but again defensively we were better in the second half. Not perfect, but I'm struggling to pull a positive from it. But it's only
It's
three
tough.
games in. I'm not going to write the season off on game three.
I've been trying really hard to look for positives as well, and the one positive that I've come up with is that nobody had a bad game, in the
No,
sense that nobody really stood out as being the reason why we lost, or
yeah,
making a particularly bad decision. Obviously, Owen Watkin had that drop off the kickoff, allowing Munster to score the fastest ever try in URC
trying the
history.
URC, yeah,
Yeah,
eight
sub 10
seconds.
seconds, which is not a good record for us to hold. Owen Watkins will be the hardest person on himself over that. But yeah, apart from that, no, nobody made like any glaring like cock-ups or mistakes. It was just an overall flat performance.
Yeah,
Obviously, we lost Tom Botha going into the match. He had some sort of visa issues,
visa
whatever that
issues.
means. That feels like something that shouldn't be happening. It should be, like picked
Yeah,
up before he's trying to get on the plane and not causing an issue in elite sport. That baffled me. But anyway, it means Ben Warren comes on to start at tight head as a late call up, and the youngster Matt Yorwerth Scott comes
yeah,
onto the bench. He's played a lot already in the start of the season, and it's probably a bit too much for him. It would have been good
yeah.
to have
That's
Tom
it.
there. Yeah, it was just a filthy night, wasn't it? In the wet and the rain, but that usually plays to our strengths. We just didn't make the most of those conditions. In the first half, we were playing into the wind,
Yeah.
whereas they had that advantage. They made it count and they got three tries. And then in the second half, we didn't make that count and
No,
leaked one more try and didn't score any of our own. So, um,
I
yeah, yeah.
I put on X, Twitter, X, whatever it's called now.
Mm,
Heading into the second half, I was like, perhaps the change in direction for us now will be a change in our circumstances and our opportunities. And you're right, we didn't
mm,
take advantage of the weather.
yeah,
It looked like I feel sorry for Owen Watkin with regards to that first try because, to be honest, it looked slippery out there. It
mm,
really looked, and the rain was kind of horizontal. It just looked awful to play in.
yeah,
Even coming out, they were soaked within minutes. That can't be comfortable to play in, and it's got to be
yeah,
greasy on the hands and everything
yeah.
else. But we didn't capitalise in the second half when we had the benefit of
No,
that wind.
no.
But
And that's now our ninth successive defeat out in Ireland.
yeah,
So yeah, we've got to be looking at Connacht and Ulster this year to try and change that stat before it
change the
becomes
narrative.
20 games. And, it's
Yeah,
just this massive burden. Nine is already a bit too much for my liking. But
yeah,
if I can just dive into the stats there for a moment, because they really
go
reveal
for it.
bit of a picture because actually there's barely anything separating us, especially on the defensive front. Possession bang on 50-50, territory 47-53, so really close there. Meters gained, Munster 260, Ospreys 220 odd, so they had a few more than us there. Carries 54-47 for the Ospreys, so again a little bit more, but not majorly different. Where the difference really shows is Munster getting 109 passes to our 84. What else? Yeah, obviously the meters gained. So it's all the attacking stats really
Yeah.
that they performed slightly better than us. Turnovers, there's barely anything in it. Penalties conceded, we get less penalties than them.
Mm.
14 we get to their 17. Turnovers, we had 14 turnovers to their 9, so we outperformed them in some areas. It was that we said it,
Just didn't take
before
those chances.
taking those chances, that final 5-10%, that killer instinct in the 22, we just didn't have
Mm.
it that day. We just didn't have it. Yeah.
And that's something they can work on through the season. And,
Yeah.
you know, looking at some of the stuff Toby said at the start of the season, he said that he thinks that we're going to finish stronger
Mm,
in the second half of the season. He did say that he wasn't expecting, looking at the games that we've got and everything else, he
yeah.
wasn't expecting a strong start to the season. So if that's what
Hmm.
they're planning for, I think we as fans have got to think, right, okay, this is just game three. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
just got to move on. Um,
Hmm.
Looking at round four, there are some pretty tasty matches that we've
Hmm.
got, especially the Irish derbies. We've got, for me, I think the one to watch next week is Leinster Munster.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's absolutely phenomenal that they have sold 70,000 tickets for Croke Park. 70,000. That's insane.
It's mental, isn't it?
It is absolutely insane. And I think be interesting to see how affected Munster are going into that game with their injuries from the weekend against a very buoyant Leinster. So Sam's game of the week is going to be Leinster Munster. Will also be
Hmm.
interesting to see Ulster Connacht as well, with what's going on. And we've got another Welsh derby with Cardiff
Mm.
Scarlets. Both are going to be
Yeah.
hurting from the weekend, so I think that's going to be a pretty tasty little game as well. So those are
Yeah.
the ones that I'm looking for. You've obviously got Glasgow against Zebra, and again, if Glasgow do not go out and do pretty much a, a cracker of a score against them, then they'll be disappointed in themselves. And again, defensively, I think that's something that they'll be working on. This week we've got then we've got Benetton Sharks, which again, Sharks. I think we can put a mortgage on that, can't we? That they gonna gonna do
Yeah.
amazing. Um,
Benetton been underperforming, you could say, but they are at home. And yeah, Sharks
Sharks
just nudged
just
Dragons this weekend. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So we'll see. Um, and then we've got the Dragons then with regards to them playing the other South African team, and my mind's gone completely blank.
Lions
Lions, that's the one. That's what my handwriting says. Lions
at home.
at home.
That could be a
I
tasty
fancy
game as
them.
well. Yeah.
Fancy it. Do fancy that. That could be a tasty one.
Hmm.
And then there's us against the Bulls.
Another big
Oh,
game.
another massive game. I've had a little look at their touring squad. Um, nice squad. Very nice
Mm.
squad.
Mhm.
Um, I'm scared.
Yeah, it's one of the two teams that we haven't beaten in the URC era, and
Yeah,
that's the Vodacom Bulls and Leinster. So yeah, it would be good to turn them over, but I don't really see it happening.
I haven't
Particularly in
got
the
the faith
Swansea.com where we haven't got that sort of
atmosphere.
fishbowl atmosphere. Yeah, yeah. But I'm optimistic. We've sort of we seem to win the unexpected games and perform really badly in those that we maybe should do a bit better
Should
on
be a walk
paper.
over.
Whether that's people underestimating us, coaches, players, what have you, or underestimating us, or us
Yeah,
just going, right, we got nothing to lose in this game. Let's
just give
throw
it a run.
everything at it. Yeah, yeah. So it could be one of those. It could be one of those.
Yeah, you
Who
know,
knows? we're certainly going to see some sort of response after last week because nobody
There's
likes
gotta be.
getting nilled. Nobody likes getting
No.
nilled. So they're going to have a fire in their belly. I think Toby's
Surprise.
going to make tactical changes back to the teams that we saw in rounds 1 and 2, which is probably the right decision. Might see Tipperick take a step back for this game since he didn't last weekend. And obviously, we talked at
Mm.
the beginning of the season about him adopting, stepping back a
Slowly
little
moving
bit,
away.
taking on, yes, moving away, taking a bit more of a coaching role. So maybe we see Deves start with Jack Morgan and Morgan Morris. Um,
And I wouldn't be
but
mad at that. I wouldn't be
no,
mad at it at all. You know, there's really, I think we're sitting at ninth at the moment in the table. They're sitting at seven. So when you're looking at it, there's not a large gap between us.
no.
Um,
But that's bearing in mind
However,
that the
they've
South
only played
African
two
teams,
games.
yeah, yeah,
There's me being all poly optimistic. But it is bearing in mind that they've only played two games.
yeah, and they've won both of them. So
Yeah,
they're 2 for 2. We're one
we're
from
one
three.
for
So
three. But
yeah,
some very big names in that touring squad, coming over with regards to looking at their performances last year,
mm,
especially within that kind of final against Glasgow. Um, Glasgow obviously not expected to kind of to win that, but we've got the likes of Kane and Moody, Willie LaRue. They're
mm.
all in the touring squad, and I've got to be honest, I'm gonna take a stab at saying I always get the South African names really wrong. And I should know better if I'm being honest. And is it Andres? Oh,
I'm just getting them up in front of me.
it is Andre.
Not much, too much dead noise now.
Aka van der Merwe.
Ah,
That's the
yeah,
one.
okay.
Um,
Yeah,
Again, had a really, really good season last year, and we know that they've
mm,
got man for man outstanding players.
yeah.
They're a massive team with a massive history. They did phenomenally well in the Super 14.
Hmm.
Um, so coming into the URC, it's no surprise that they're one of the strongest teams within the competition.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it will be interesting to see the matchup man for man. And I will be interested to see the squad that they announce and the squad that we announce.
Mm,
I'm really looking forward to going to see it, if I'm being honest. I think it's going to
yeah.
be some big clashes there. Um, and I think they have got some really nice pace in their backs as well.
They got massive individual performers, I think. They're
Yeah,
obviously really cohesive as a team, but they've just got
yeah,
superstars smattered throughout the
yeah,
team. Yeah, Kane Moody, the flanker, Elric Lowe. Uh,
yeah,
they've just got dangerous ball carriers across the field, forwards and backs, and that's what they are. They're a running team, and they
yeah.
spread it and they hit up hard. So we're going to need some
And they're
real
big.
strength in the centre field.
Yeah,
Um, I'm going to be, I reckon Keith's got to come back. Um,
absolutely.
I think Cokanasiga performed. He was all right last week. He didn't really show himself. Nobody
Yeah,
did, but maybe it wasn't the right game for him. But I think we need that heft back, don't we, to counter
yeah.
their
New
absolute
season as
units.
well. Yeah, they are.
Mm,
They brick shit houses, and they. Do you know what I mean? When
yeah.
you see them, like I'm about 15, 20 rows back, and they
Mm,
look big to me on the pitch, which is, then that they're big in real
yeah.
life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I think the Ospreys will have something to prove. They'll have
Mm,
something that they'll, you know, yeah, okay, we may not win, but we got to do a better show of ourselves than we did like on the weekend. And it's capitalizing on those small margins and those chances. It's those margins that you mentioned with, the meters gained. Um, it is small
Yeah,
margins, but it's taking those chances on the small margins.
yeah.
Um, are you coming down on Saturday, Rod? Are you gonna be there
I am, yeah,
Saturday?
yeah,
Me
yeah.
too. So we'll both be there.
Hmm.
And fingers crossed for a
Yeah.
for a cracker. But I
I'm
suppose
just
that thing,
looking. I'm just looking up who they've got the week after us, and then the week after that. So they got Scarlets next weekend, and then
yeah,
Benetton the week after that. So no chance of them really resting
the
players in
resting
anticipation
players,
of a
no.
stronger game. No, we're probably the one there thinking, oh, this is a potential banana skin.
But
So
not,
I'm
yeah,
anticipating them going relatively fully loaded and then maybe rotating a bit more for the Scarlets game in preparation for
yeah.
Benetton. So no, I don't think we're going to have an easy ride. Again, we just got to be niggly.
Fingers crossed. Keep our
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of leads us nicely to next week's questions, really. And we've had some really good questions, not just to Instagram this week, which we normally get the questions from, but also from Facebook and Twitter. And had some really lovely feedback this week as well about the pod and loving a lot of love for last episode, especially with Dara. Loads of comments about how such a nice lad he was and so knowledgeable. Um, and a lot of love for him coming back for the internationals next year as well. So definitely, and I know he was happy over the weekend because he messaged me. So I'm glad you're happy, Dara. I was crying in the corner, but hey ho.
I
Um,
ignored his message for a few days before replying. No, I didn't see it and I explained that. It looked like I just ignored him out of
was
spite.
you
Um,
sulking?
yeah, yeah, a little bit.
Did you feel your hip
I
on
rewatched it
having a
on the
bit of a
Sunday.
wall or
Yeah, 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 100%. Yeah.
oh don't be a
But
hippo, don't
no,
wallow.
I subjected myself to it again on the Sunday, which was a bad choice. But that's what I was doing. I was trying to look for positives. And again, on second watch, I didn't find any.
But it is. It's so easy to be super critical. But I think you were right to look at the stats. It's made me feel a little bit better anyway with you looking at the
Yeah,
stats.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but some lovely questions, and I think we've discussed it really. So Edward on Instagram, thanks so much. You message me every week, and I love having your questions, and I love your little comments. Did the Ospreys play poorly, or were Munster that good? Did the weather make it impossible to play? And I think we both
Mm.
said the weather was the same for both
Both teams. Yeah.
teams.
Hmm.
Um, you know,
We had the advantage in the second half and we didn't make the most of it.
didn't
So,
take the most of it.
no,
Yeah,
weather's never an excuse.
no,
No.
both teams have got the same weather at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then we've got Andrew, my buddy on Insta. What do we need to change in order for us to win games like last Saturday against Munster? Killer
Mm.
instinct.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, having the depth of squad to be able to just field our strongest team every week would be
Good. Yeah.
great as well. But that's not the reality of the rugby landscape in Wales at the moment. All teams
No.
have got to do this thing of uh, almost, and it's horrible because it's competitive sport and it shouldn't be a thing, but they've got to sort of look 2, 3 weeks ahead and go, right, what big games have we got coming up? What are the easier fixtures? Which ones do we just
Yeah.
write off as losses and just chuck out the youngsters just to get some experience? But it's always been the case. Yeah,
Got to rob
it's
Peter to
a
pay
hard
Paul
question to answer.
sometimes.
Hmm?
Got to rob Peter to pay Paul sometimes.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
it's those big games with those youngsters sometimes that have brought the players through. So do
Hmm.
you know what? I'm okay with that. I'll live with that.
So what
Um,
do we need to change? That's the hard thing to answer, really. I mean, we're not paid the big bucks to make these decisions, but
we'll just go with Toby's find a way, shall we? Find a
yes, we
way,
just got to
find a
find
way.
a way.
Gotta
Yeah.
find a way.
I mean,
If all else,
he summed up that game great in one quote that I
mm,
have got in front of me. He said, double figure leads are hard to overcome in those conditions. Yeah, 100%. We were brave and we were tough, but when you're up there, you've got to convert it on the scoreboard, and that's what we didn't do.
Exactly
So
what we said. He said it far
you've
more
answered your
eloquently than we
question
did.
there. Yeah.
Far more eloquently than we did. Um, he should write our scripts for us. Actually, we haven't got a script. We just
Yeah.
fly by the seat of our pants. Um, but yeah, I think that there's not a lot we can say to change it. Welsh rugby is Welsh rugby. It is what it is.
Mm,
And we are looking to increase the salary cap within the next 2 years. Moving to St Helens will certainly help that
mm,
because we'll have revenue coming in that we don't have at the .com stadium at the minute. So
yeah.
I think like anything, we've got to hold tight. It will get better, just not necessarily this season or next season. And I think Welsh rugby needs to just take that
Hold
on board.
tight.
Yeah,
Hmm.
hold tight. Just keep hold tight. Now, this was a bit of a curve ball for me because I will watch a lot of sport, but there's a couple that I don't watch. Um, More than a couple, it's three. Golf, snooker, and Formula One.
Oh,
So
I love
this
a bit of
one,
snooker.
snooker. Um, I can tell you a top fact. Can you remember the Welsh snooker player Tony Chappell?
No, I can't.
Probably way before your time because you're a baby. But at one point he was the number one snooker player in Wales, and he married my next door neighbour when I was about
Oh.
9, and I was a bridesmaid.
Oh, really?
I was, yeah. I
Was
just
it a
really
snooker themed wedding?
no, no,
Did he
no.
open a
There
black?
were snooker players there though, like famous snooker players there,
Yeah, yeah.
and but yeah, so but
That's
not
cool.
we digress, yeah. But this was from Martin Lewis on X, and it's not the Martin Lewis. He can't do you a deal for your electric or tell you who to
Or the
bank
money man.
with. Not the money man. Um, and better that I've kind of condensed this down because it came across 3 tweets. And it was with the amount of things missed by the TMOs across all games this weekend, is it time to switch to an F1 style stewards panel so that there are 3 analysts sitting with a TMO ref who have access to all camera angles on a dual feed? There was also some discussion as well with regards to being able to pop stuff up on screen so that the ref can see and the teams can see and the team management can see so that they can kind of um, manage the ref in real time. Um, but I don't know how realistic that would be to work in rugby um, because it's so fast, it's so dynamic, it's so
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how long those decisions take in F1. But sometimes in rugby games, the TMO can be intervening, every 5 minutes, every few plays, to
yeah,
make a decision. So if you've got a panel of three people discussing that, feeding it back to the
I'm
ref. I
with you
mean,
to a
I'm not
degree.
an F1 fan, so I don't know how long they take
Yeah,
to make these decisions. But if it drags on too long, it's just not going to fit. And then around putting the decisions up on screen, I think you want minimal player
it's
intervention in this thing.
distracting.
That's when you're going to get all the back chat and too many voices. You need, that independent, whether it is a panel or just an individual TMO making that decision, feeding it back quietly to the ref and him delivering his verdict
Yeah,
is the cleanest way of doing it. I think the essence of this question is why were the TMO so crap of the weekend? And that's
yeah.
because the TMOs are a bit bad in this league. And I think
The
it's just
refs are bad in this league. Sorry, Ben Whitehouse. I
uh,
know we know each other, but um, he did have actually a good game on the weekend. So, but
yeah. Well, there's the
he's poor.
communication of the ref, and then there's the actual just the analytical skills and the decision making of the TMO sometimes. And I hate blanket statements, but it is becoming something that's being flagged more and more often by
Yeah,
fans online and just people watching. Sometimes the decisions are so blatant that you don't have to be an avid rugby supporter and know the rules inside out to know that
I know
some of the
it's not
decisions
right.
they're making are weird and wrong and
Elbow
off
in
the
the
wall.
head on the
So
Munster game, anyone? Um,
yeah,
but looking at this, then apparently it works quite well in Formula One, in that they have a number of officials who oversee and uphold the rules to make sure that everyone from the drivers to the fans are kept safe while the cars are on track.
mm,
Um, Again, apparently they managed to make decisions in a matter of minutes, but you've got 40 minutes a half. If they take
hmm
2 or 3 minutes to make a decision, we've moved on from there. You're
yeah,
going to be constantly stopping. And I don't know if you watch American football. I watch quite a bit of American football. That with the stopping and the starting really irritates me for something that could be so quick. It's those quarters can be quite strung out. So I
yeah,
wouldn't be tempted to go down that kind of road with
yeah,
rugby. I think we need to make standards better rather than bring more people into it.
yeah.
Um, and if that is, I know Nigel was involved in going to get involved in URC to bring standards and stuff up, wasn't he? But I think he's concentrating on his farming now. Love him.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd be
there's
interested to hear what you have to say though, Martin. If you've got ideas on how we could integrate, let us know.
Yeah, please
Because we're not
do.
Formula One fans, familiar with that system.
No, kind of like to think I would like a go in a Formula One car because yeah, you know.
I'm the furthest thing from a petrol head.
I'm not
I've
really a petrol head, but I do like going fast.
okay.
Um, my last but one car was a 20-year-old Polo called Polly, and she was so old I used to have to put a tape in to play like stuff off my phone. And you could go very fast in her before she rattled. And I'm not going to say how fast you could go, but I have got a bit of a lead foot. I do like going quite fast. So I would love a go in a Formula One car. But to be honest, have you seen how tight they are to get in and out of? There's no way this Chanko is getting in and out of a Formula One car easily. I've done go-karting and that was horrific. Um,
I think most of them are like jockeys. They're like modern jockeys,
they're
aren't
tiny,
they?
aren't they?
They do watch their weight and they
And they've got a
try to
brace,
keep their
haven't
weight
they,
down and everything.
for the
Um,
G-force.
so I think
Um,
most people wouldn't fit in those seats, to be honest.
oh, thanks, babes. Made me feel better now. And then we've got a question from um, Adam Beaker Davies on Facebook. What a good season for us. Scrum wise, we were so poor. Can't see us being competitive against other sides unless that improves. Um, what do you think?
I mean, it's two questions rolled into one, really. So a
Yeah,
bit cheeky from him watching you. Um, um, good season for us. A scrum was poor. It was poor, but we had that late Tom Botha pull-out. And I think this ties into our final question as well, which was, I don't
it
know who
does.
it was
Yeah,
from, but it was how do we strengthen
Nick
the tight head
Williams. How do
position?
we do the tight head position? Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, obviously we had the late dropout with Tom Botha, forcing us to call up two youngsters onto the starting position and on the bench then. So we're on the back foot from the very beginning then against yeah, a really, really strong team up front. So I'm not so concerned about our scrum. It went well last year. There's been glimpses of that form again this year. We've just been hit with a couple of curveballs, particularly last game. Yeah, I'm not that concerned about it. There's certainly teams that are in worse conditions when it comes to tight head, in the depth in their squad.
yeah.
We've got some of the top performers in Wales. We may have more of an issue when the international window comes round and suddenly all
We
our
lose people.
yeah, but I don't know if Warren Gatland's got anything to do with it. He won't be calling up our high performing forward. So
Who knows?
yeah,
I think good season for us is finishing in top eight. There's no reason why we can't do that. That's a good season for us. I think when we put our predictions out at the start on the podcast, we all kind of said we wanted to be in top eight with our varying levels of where we thought we would be. I think between 6, 7, and 8, we all came in that kind of range. Um, which kind of leaves us on then to a question for our old co-host Darren about what Osprey players do we think will get a World's call up. And I think you've just alluded to what my thoughts are with Gatland. I don't think we perhaps play the way that he wants to play. Um, Rod's on
Sorry.
mute.
Darren's phrasing is very specific there. He says who deserves a call up, not who we think is going to get called
Yeah.
up, is who deserves one. So let's go down that route because there's more to talk
Well,
about there.
should we throw the normal one out?
Yeah,
Morgan.
Morgan Morris.
Morgan Morris, what?
Hmm.
Like, I, yeah.
Why do you think he doesn't get the call up? Stats wise, performance wise, nobody's had as many
No,
player of the matches in him. He's consistently phenomenal. Is it a
it's a bit
size
of a
thing?
head scratcher for me. I think it always used to amaze me when Jack didn't get a call up, if I'm being honest. Um, and again, with Jack, it was always you're too small, you're too this, you're too the other. He's gone in, he's made a place for himself. He's shown himself to be quite dynamic, and that necessarily
Hmm.
that size doesn't matter. And I don't know whether it's the same with Morgan. It's
I think that's the case, and it really grates me because if somebody deserves a shot, give them a shot. If
give
they
him a goal.
perform poorly, then fair enough, you'll
How many
silence
years?
everyone. But he hasn't been given the chance,
Yeah.
and he really deserves it. And if the younger players coming through look at that going, oh well, if
What's the point?
performance doesn't give me a chance, what's the point? I think it
Yeah.
sets a bad precedent. So I think he's Warren's got to call him up just on those grounds to show that there is a pathway, whatever you look like, size wise. Speed wise, capability, there's a place for all people in rugby if they're good enough, and he's good enough. He's just not the biggest person on the pitch, but that makes him harder to tackle. He's got real, he's got a bit of a, bottom heavy weight distribution, even as a small person, isn't he? He carries a lot of
Yeah.
weight in his legs. It just makes him so stable, and people can't put him down. Um, yeah. Anyway,
He's
I'll stop
solid.
ranting.
But if anybody does deserve a call up, then it is Morgan.
Yeah.
Um,
Who
and I
else
think
then?
for me, out of the stand up, then yes, he deserves a call up. Did
Mm.
see something interesting. There's been some criticism online, or again, rugby fans about Jack Morgan saying he's not good enough to be in the Welsh squad, which I think off the back of 3 games is just what are you watching? Behave
He's been out
yourself.
for
But
so
then,
long.
yeah, but I think then in another light, there's rumours going around that he's having talks with Farrell about the Lions and possibly captaincy there. That's something that I've seen today.
Oh, I
So
hadn't
I
heard that.
just briefly saw it. To be honest, it was in the Wales Online, and sometimes I wouldn't believe them if they told me it was raining and I looked out the window and it was. But I think he is a great, great leader. Would I be mad if some of them didn't get called up? No, because it's better for the Ospreys, but it's a shame personally for them.
Mm.
Um, I like the dynamic of him and Derby co-captaining. So again, I'd like to see Derby having a call up. One for me that's always been a bit of a mission, and I don't know how he's doing, and perhaps probably not this time because of just coming out of injury, is Keelan Giles. I think he is a lovely player, um,
Mm.
lovely turn of pace, doesn't shy away from the defensive tackles and the hits that he's got to make, and I do think he deserves a bit of a run out in a
Yeah.
Welsh shirt. But again, it is injury
Mm.
dependent. Um,
Yeah, he's been one that's not been knocking for a while.
Yeah,
Somebody I had my eye on last year that I thought could be on for Welsh call-up this year was Fender until he
yeah,
went out with a long injury. I don't think it would be right now for him
he's
this year,
not going to
even
be
if he
back.
comes back and puts in a couple of good games. I still I want to see more from him, and I was hoping that we'd get that last season, setting him up for this season, but
Yeah,
that's just not how it went for him. But he's 100% got what it takes. He's got that
yeah.
size that Warren's going to be looking for. He's got that grit. He's a gnarly bastard, isn't he? And yeah, I think he's
Rodri.
one to watch for the future. Um, who else?
Um,
Deep to see him
Deeps,
given the opportunity, but again, I think the size issue will be
guys,
even more pronounced there. And I'd be really surprised if he does. Although it would make me the happiest Ospreys fan in the world.
I like
Um,
him.
yeah. Owen Watkin will probably find his way into the Welsh squad just because he's one of the more mature heads now.
Yeah,
One of the leadership characters. Obviously, Max Nagy is now
Welsh
Welsh
eligible.
eligible, which is exciting. And he's a tall boy with a lot of promise. Good runner, good under the high ball. Didn't play so great on the weekend, but it was hard conditions for that
I
kind of
don't think
player
it
in
was.
the back
Yeah,
three. Lots of high balls. Munster were kicking well, but he could be up for contention. I know that there was a lot of media attention around him over the last couple of seasons, constantly asking Toby,
when
is
are
he
you going to
qualified?
be
Is he
qualified?
qualified? And Toby saying, I don't know, I'm asking the WRU and they're not letting me know, blah, blah, blah. So clearly it's known across the board now at Ospreys level and WRU level that
Yeah,
he is eligible. So maybe we'll see him get called up as well.
yeah. Um, and I do like. I don't think perhaps they're ready for the step yet, but they are phenomenal as regional players. But I do like Dan Edwards,
Mm.
a youngster with potential, and I think perhaps giving him the opportunity to kind of go in and yeah,
You don't think
put
it's too early for him still?
I that's my worry is that it's early where he's great regional and he could do with a bit more game time. But
Yeah,
then do we just we've talked about the Costello thing. Do we want to put
exactly.
him under that pressure? Perhaps not. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but
We don't want him going up against a fully loaded Ireland team or an England team and getting targeted for a start and just, yeah,
yeah,
the confidence knocked
battered.
out of him. He's not that
Yeah.
kind of player. Costello, he is a more nervous character, if you want to put it that
Yeah.
way, whereas Dan Edwards has got that
I love his little
cockiness, which I
smiles.
love. I love
I do
to the
like
10.
cocky niggles. I do,
Yeah,
where you just like giving that little head rub and that little smile
yeah,
because he had that about him on Saturday. The
yeah.
grin didn't come off his face, and I know some fans didn't like that, but for me, I loved that because
Mm.
you're not letting it get to you.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's kind of all I can think of. But it will. Is it being in? Is he releasing his squad this week? I think
Oh, I
maybe.
don't
Um,
know. I don't know.
so that will be interesting to
Mm.
see.
We'll share that
Um,
on socials when it comes
we'll
out.
share
So
it, yeah. As
yeah.
soon as it comes on.
Mm.
But yeah, I think deserving wise, then I know we've spoken in past weeks about, Ratty as well.
Hmm.
Um, Again, could be another one, but I don't know. As I say, with Gatland, I think it's a lot to do with the way that he plays, the style that he likes to play. We're not always in sync with that. And again, a lot to do with the size.
Mm.
And a lot of our players that we've got don't necessarily have that size for him. But I think you're right when you're talking about the lower centre of gravity and the difficulty in being able to tackle. Morgan's solid. He's
Yeah.
not going anywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, I just think, do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
just think for me, yes, I would be gutted for some of them, but for some of them as well, I don't think it is the end of the world if they're not chosen.
No.
We know, we know that in past years Jack hasn't been picked, but now all of a sudden he's in the fold, so perhaps he will do all that he can to kind of give that
Mm.
confidence that size is not necessarily
Yeah, yeah.
the most important thing.
And
Um,
obviously, Wainwright's out injured at the moment. I don't know the nature of his injury or how long he's going to be out, but that leaves a bit of a window for your Morgan Morrises to potentially come
yeah,
in and fill that void. So we'll see, we'll see. But Gatland
and
certainly does profile players just based on physique, which I don't like about him.
he's a
But
Kiwi and he's going to go for that
yeah,
every single time. Do you know what I
mm,
did like this week though?
hmm
Um, Basham coming out and saying, I want
I
back
want
in.
it. Yeah,
I want back in. Um,
yeah,
I think to have confidence in yourself and to back yourself to that point where you're like, I'm just going to say it to the press. Yeah, I want in.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I love that. That's the kind of thing that you need, and that's the kind of player that you want because you know that they are emotionally able to take it on the chin.
yeah.
Absolutely, thought that was great. Um, just a question for from me, really, and it's not one of my randos. It is actually rugby related. Um, a lot of obviously Scarlets came out last week and said we won an Anglo Welsh league. We've discussed this before, but what I'm not seeing, which other people are saying online, is oh my god, the Welsh fans are baying for this and blah blah blah. I'm not seeing anything other than and it's not all Scarlets fans. I'm not seeing anyone really other than the Scarlets coming out and saying we want this Anglo Welsh League. I'm not hearing it from Cardiff fans and I'm not hearing it from Dragons fans, but a lot of the South African fans of the URC have taken a bit of umbrage. And I'm just wondering if you've seen anything on social media with other Welsh fans saying that they fancy this because literally the only place I've seen it coming out of is out of Scarlets. It's not,
Mm.
we've kind of said we're not happy. Lance Bradley's been talking about it on Twitter, saying we're happy with the URC, thanks.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering where the South Africans are getting this perception from. Then I'm just
Yeah.
wondered whether you'd seen anything.
No, admittedly, I try to stay out of all the online spats and stuff. And when my Twitter feed starts when the algorithms start feeding me more Scarlet content, I make sure I go onto the Ospreys page and just like a few things so it just stays more Ospreys focused. Because Twitter seems to want me to be a Scarlets fan sometimes. Maybe it's because they know we're sworn enemies and they're like, you want to see this, you want to
You
see
want to
this.
do
But
this,
actually,
yeah,
I don't. Um,
yeah,
but no, I mean, I picked up on the stuff that you've mentioned, the disquiet, if you want to call it, in the South African camps over some of this discussion. Obviously, there's been a couple of reported stories in the press from a Scarlets angle after their
yeah,
was it their CEO's comments? Is it
yeah.
the CEO? Yeah. But no, I don't hear a lot of talk about it. I hear both sides of the argument from all teams, but there's just a lot of noise coming out of the Scarlet camp in particular at the moment. I don't know what it would solve. I think it would be more of a financial decision rather than a competitiveness decision because it's not going to change anything on paper. They go
How
in and the
competitive is
performances
Scarlets
are
going
going
to
to be
be going into
insane.
the Prem? Let's face
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So no, I mean I'm not really clued up on this debate. I probably should do a bit more looking into it now that we're doing a podcast together, and rugby is the theme. But no, I've got no strong opinions. I'm happy. I enjoy this URC.
Yeah,
Like you said last week, I think we are building new rivalries. I do love when we play English teams, and it would be amazing to have more of that. But I don't know if just sort of latching on to the Prem is the way to do
not the right.
that.
It's
If
not the
it
right
was
way.
to be done, it would need complete overhaul and, creating something new and bespoke
And
that serves everyone.
we've got such strict criteria of grounds and everything else to come into our league.
Yeah.
Some of the Prem teams fall way short of those
Yeah.
requirements. But
And
that's
they've just introduced promotion relegation to the Prem, have they not?
yeah,
So that would just mess up those plans. You
Yeah,
know, if
one of
Ealing get promoted next season and Newcastle go down, Ealing have then got 5 years to increase their stadium capacities and all this
yeah,
stuff. And if they start doing all that monetary investment and
and
then
then go back down.
everything's ripped up, I don't know what it means for them. So yeah, I don't follow a lot of Prem rugby. Obviously
I
when we
watch a
when we
fair
get
bit.
into Europe, you do you?
Yeah.
Mm.
Quinn's are my English team
Okay.
for for want of having a team to support.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'm just bored of it now. Just let's move on. We are where we are,
Yeah.
and it's
Hey,
not
you brought it up.
beneficial for anyone. I know, but like I was seeing online. Can I also reassure everyone as well? You may notice that Rod has shaved his head. This was not a Brittany moment after the loss on Saturday. Rod did not do it in a fit of sadness. He didn't hit anyone with an umbrella. So I just like to reassure everyone. I was going to make a joke, Rod, about you letting the council do your hair and when you're going to go back and let them finish it, but I'm not going to be that mean, to be honest. I think it suits you.
Yeah, I think it's all right. I've got the hairline,
You have
which
got a nice
is often the
hairline.
things that makes it look maybe a bit worse. But
Yeah,
no, I keep going like
I think
this because
you're
it's been
nice as
3 years
well.
since I've shaved my head, and I keep going to like brush my fringe over and then going, oh crap, there's no fringe there anymore. But no, it's just easy, innit? It's easy. But yes, you're right. I did it pre-game on the weekend. I'm quite impulsive with things like that, and I said in the car to my missus before I was going to my good friend's engagement party in the
Wedding
afternoon.
engagement party, yeah.
Yeah, I said I might shave my head again, and then within 2 hours it was gone. So yeah, new look, new me.
But at least he didn't have a Brittany.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of it for the questions this week. And it's been quite nice just being the dynamic duo.
Can,
It's
can
been
I
lovely.
can we just do a couple of news items really, really quickly? I
Of
know we're getting a
course
bit
you can, my little
long.
muffin.
So obviously we've got new front of shirt sponsor on the away
Ticket pass.
jersey. Ticket
Yes,
Pass, yeah. So I didn't know this about them. I obviously saw the news story. I just read the headline a few days
they're a
ago and
great
didn't
company.
click on the article. Yeah, they give 50% of their booking fees to charitable
Yeah,
organizations, which is quite nice.
they're a social
Enterprise.
enterprise, which I
Yeah.
really, really like.
I hadn't heard of them
Absolutely love
before.
that.
Yeah. But
Um,
what I am really glad is that I clicked on their website afterwards just to have a nosy because, like I said, never heard of them before and saw that their logo is this little cartoon green dog thing. So I'm really glad that that's not on the front of the
oh, that's
jersey.
so cute. We love dogs. We
I
love
do
dogs.
like a simple, discreet sponsor that fills the space but isn't too shouty.
Yeah,
Like God Almighty, Australia with Cadbury's, like it just draws my eye
the
every time.
purple with the
So I
yellow
could,
is a clash.
yeah, so I couldn't have dealt with a little green dog on the front of our jerseys. It wouldn't have fit the color scheme.
No.
Um, no, no, but that's great news. Presumably they're still looking for front of shirt sponsors then for the Euro kit and the home jersey. Maybe it'll be released this weekend for our
Yeah, I
first home
don't
game
know.
since.
Um,
Um, they haven't released anything on that, but they didn't release anything about this one until
no. And can
immediately
I
before the
say,
game.
if anybody from the club is watching, I love a puffer jacket. That
Mm,
green puffer jacket that Max had on,
yeah.
I would look amazing with that on, with my little bobble hat. Please, can we release that? Because it's a stunning colour, because I'm wearing the green and the gold today.
Yeah.
I need that jacket in my life.
Same. It was stunning. I need a warm Ospreys layer because I got loads of jerseys, but then I get to a pitch in the winter and I have to cover
You're
it up with a
freezing.
coat. I'd wear that. It was stunning. You're right.
Me, me and Rod could twin. So if we can introduce that, that would be banging.
Yeah.
But news item number two, Trevor McDonald.
Yeah. Second thing, and this was technically last week, but we didn't bring it up, and that's that floodlighting and electrical services are
Yes.
joining Ospreys as a partner, which is obviously really poignant considering that we're heading to a new stadium. It's clearly a bit.
Who do you reckon's going to do our lighting?
Yeah, exactly. There's some insider trade in there. No, I should probably cut that out. No accusations here. But the quote from
Allegedly.
the quote from Lance is good. He said, "We're delighted to announce this partnership with floodlighting and electrical services, blah, blah, blah. With our move to St. Helens on the horizon, we are looking at creating and strengthening relationships with as many local businesses as we can, which in turn will help to streamline that transition to the new stadium." So, yeah, that's a nice, positive sort of relationship that they're forming there as well that'll help us going
Yeah.
forward. And that's it from Rodri's News Corner.
Rodri's News Corner. We haven't discussed the European kit and the blue.
Oh, we haven't.
We
Add
haven't.
another item to the news
Had
desk.
another. Do, 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 do.
Yeah.
Um, I saw it in the shop on
Mm.
Saturday, because my mum took me to buy a t-shirt because I'm a brat. Um, it is really nice in real life, and the mask here, you see it amazing in like in real life. You can really tell it's the mask, but
Mhm.
there's loads of hidden details down the bottom, like fishtails, where it's preying on the fish at the bottom of the shirt. Absolutely stunning, and love the collar. Really, really lovely design. Um, I know Anthony Cole Johnson is not with the club anymore, but he had a hand in designing the Powered by Nature shirts. And I'd like to say, Anthony, amazing job. I did have a bit of a heads up a couple of weeks ago that the European shirt was going to be different, but I wasn't obviously able to say anything. And I agree, that is a good different. I like it. I like what we've done with, the air, the water, and the earth themes with the mountains and the feathers on the air. I really like what we've done. It's different,
Yeah.
and it
I
stands
didn't
out.
even make that elemental connection, really. Obviously,
Favourite rings.
they've all got hidden images within them, but I
Yeah.
didn't think of it as, what was
Why
it,
did you think
Earth?
they were powered by nature?
Well, yeah, yeah. And that's obviously a link to our sponsor who dropped out, isn't it? That was the
Yeah,
theme behind it.
yeah.
Who was it again? Eco what? Was it Eco what?
Eco
No.
what, I think
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
someone like that.
Yeah.
But I do like this design. I think all three shirts, I would wear all three of them. I'm obviously not allowed to buy all three of them, especially if I have a jacket. But I definitely, yeah, I like that blue shirt. I like it a lot. And I got,
Yeah.
I'm going to sound really, really vain now. In real life, I've got really blue eyes, and that shirt looked amazing with my eyes. So I would be tempted to get it just for that.
Mhm.
But that's kind of it for this week. Now, um, we've got to keep we got to keep with the random questions. I'm sorry, I know we've run over, and I'm normally a stickler, but what's your guilty pleasure in life, Rod?
Oh, Christ. You warm me up with yours first and give me a moment to think.
So I've got two guilty pleasures. The first one is reality TV.
Mm.
I love reality TV. I watch them all. Housewives, Towie, Below Deck, Strictly, the whole thing. If I was gonna do reality TV, then I'd probably want to do Strictly because I'd come away with a skill. But I love Big Brother. I love Married at First Sight. I love just stuff that I haven't got to think about because I got to think about a lot in my daily job, and I'm always like switched on and concentrating. So I like to like turn off with that kind of thing. But my other guilty pleasure is trashy novels.
Mm.
Shirley Cooper, Jackie Collins. I'm an 80s child, so there's nothing that makes me happier than the fact that Jilly Cooper Rivals is coming on Disney Plus in 2 weeks' time. I'm actually going to book the day off work so I can watch it all in one day. But those are my guilty pleasures. So what are yours?
I don't know about guilty. That's the thing I'm getting hung up on. I have so many weird hobbies.
Weird is fine then.
I'm a
Something that you
hobby
like, someone
collector.
doesn't.
I'm well into my bonsai and I can lose hours on the weekend just like fiddling with tiny trees and staring at them from different angles. Um, What else? I spend far too much money collecting Lord of the Rings memorabilia and books. The amount of different editions that I have of the same
Fine.
books. Um, but again, I'm not guilty of, I'm not ashamed of it whatsoever.
Let
Um,
that freak flag fly.
yeah, I guess maybe something is just like um, fantasy cartoons and anime that's clearly designed for kids, but I can just sit down and watch it and it,
I watched The
lets me
Last
unwind.
Airbender. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
Last
anything.
Airbender is top of the list. It's so good. Nothing, in real life, as in like real life TV or film viewing with real people acting, makes me cry like the Last Airbender series
It's so
cartoon
good.
does.
It is
The
so good.
the character development, the sort of emotional connection that you
I
build with those
know.
characters, considering they're like 20-minute episodes with
I know. I love it.
really just like childish, snappy lines. It's amazing what they're able to do with that program. Um,
I love
but
it.
but how
Absolutely love it.
disappointing was the film?
Good.
I didn't get through like 30 minutes of it.
No, not awesome.
Mm,
Um, yeah, my other guilty pleasure is Lego.
mm.
I'm
I
an
love
adult
Lego.
Lego fan.
If you
Um,
want to buy me the Lord of the Rings Barad-dûr set for like 600 quid for
shut up.
Christmas.
Um, I'm saying shut up, that's too expensive. If I were to go downstairs, I have got both versions of the like three, £400 Disney castles,
Oh
and
wow.
they're both in cases with they're both in plastic cases with the backdrops and stuff as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, I got both of them in my living
Oh, you
room.
have to send us a photo. Put that up
I'll
on your
send,
story.
I'll put it on my stories later. But I'm currently in the process of decorating my office, and
Mm,
I love Animal Crossing. That's probably another guilty pleasure. But I've
mm,
got all the Animal Crossing Lego sets, and I've got
hmm.
Kallax units that I'm making into a desk. And because they've all got cubes, I'm going to put my different islands in my cubes.
Oh,
So
nice,
I've got
nice.
it there when I'm working and I'm dealing with horrible stuff on my
Do you have a
laptop. Like,
dedicated room for this, or are you just encroaching further and further
to
on
be
on your
honest,
living
it's
space?
not just me, it's John. John has
Is
got
it?
loads of Star Wars Lego, and
Ah,
he's got like the slave one, and I've got all the Christmas sets as well.
yeah, yeah,
So another guilty pleasure. But
yeah.
people now know that we're in a geeks. We're not
Oh,
nerds because we just talk
100%.
to people, but we are geeks.
I'm a
So
massive nerd. I'm a massive nerd.
it's all
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's all
yeah.
good in the hood.
Oh
Happy
God,
days.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Happy days.
We're
Well, that
passionate
is
individuals.
we are. Do you want to come to the board game expo with me next May in Birmingham? Come with me and
Honestly,
John Boy.
sounds like a great day out.
We go for the weekend. We're there for 3 days.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and you can go and play games, and you can like go into Birmingham shopping and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll discuss that offline. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Um, but that is us for this week, folks. Thank you for sticking with just me and Brittany. Um, sorry, Rodri.
Oops, I
Thank you
did it again.
for oh, you're toxic. We could go on and on, couldn't we, really? We, oh, yeah, no, let's not go there. We're
No.
Brittany in 99. But anyway, thank you for sticking with us. Please continue messaging us, keeping in contact with us on social media. We always kind of reply to people and have a bit of a chat and a bit of banter with people. And as we say, this is a fan cast for the fans. You'll quite clearly see that we are fans. We enjoy doing this. The banner will be up underneath with the socials. Rod, I will speak to you offline about seeing you on Saturday, my little check. You can come and join me and my little nesters if you want.
hmm
Um, Hopefully Marc is feeling better. Marc, you've got to come back, mate. Me and Rod, we're not good with the URC roundups. We
Yeah.
just,
How have we talked so long with just the two of
two
us?
of us, because we're idiots. Because we're idiots. Um, but we've had some really good questions from people, and
Yeah.
we've talked, around the questions, and a lot of the questions that we've asked, we've covered ourselves before we get there. But we will see you next week, hopefully off the back of a victory against the Bulls. We'll see. But certainly looking forward to Saturday, and certainly looking forward to those games that we said you should watch. The South Wales Derby that we've
Mhm.
got again with Cardiff and Scarlet, and obviously the Ospreys game, but the big one for me is Leinster Munster. So have a lovely weekend watching rugby, everyone. Share, like, subscribe, do all the usual things, and we will see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bob.